Tara Lynn here, and today we are doing the Pink Toucan Advanced Artistry Workshop. So this is what we are creating. I am going to set it aside since it's got this reflective mirror on it, but you can see it up in the corner. We are using a 9-inch surface. So I've got canvas here. This is just a stapled back canvas. I painted it black. Of course, you can use any background color that you would like. I have my center marked, and I'm going to go ahead and use my stencil here. Now, we are going to have a mirror placed in the middle, so I don't need the inner rings of my stencil. So I am just going to go ahead and start which would be ring 3 here. And I'm going to make my marks. And then after you go through your stencil and make all of your marks, you're going to want to extend those out to the end. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. I need to find my little pencil sharpener here. I've been using chalk to draw my lines because it's just so much easier to remove and it doesn't leave any staining. But then I have to sharpen it. All right, so to extend your lines, you just need a ruler. And then make sure your ruler goes right through your center mark. And then I just want to line it up and go all the way across. All right, so I've got all my marks there. And then if you want to, you can go ahead and just extend your rings. I like to use a compass to do that. Usually once I get the pattern going, I don't necessarily need the rings because I can just eyeball it based on the previous row that we created or the previous ring we created, but you can always extend the rings. So I'll just demonstrate this. And I'm not really measuring, I'm just kind of eyeballing equal spacing as far as those rings go. But that's totally optional. And then what we're going to do is I have this little mirror that we're going to place inside here. And that will be the center of our design. Now, for creation purposes, I'm going to flip it upside down so you don't have that reflection on the camera. All right, few things before we get started. Number one, there are no rules. So if you want to change colors, if you want to change the design, change the size of the piece, go for it, okay? If you do something different than I do, or if you feel like you kind of mess up, just do it all the way around. And then, you know, nobody knows any better. Nobody knows you didn't mean to do that. As we are working with this pattern, we've got 4 main colors, and tonight I'm going to use white for top dots. I'm going to mix it with these colors, and it's going to change them a little bit. But I've got Laguna, I've got white peach, I've got melon, I've got a new melon, so I need to open this baby up. And then Fuchsia pop. All right, so those are the 4 colors. For top dots later, I'm going to mix those 4 colors with white, but I do not need to do that right now. All right, so I'm going to place my mirror in the center just so I can get a visual of where everything's going to be. And I'm going to go ahead and start my design. All right, so first we are going to grab a 6mm tool, and I'm going to make 16 dots on the lines with my white peach. So I'm going to start right next to my mirror. I've got my mirror exactly where I'm going to glue it on. I've got 16 lines all the way around, so on each line, we've got a dot. And as far as placement goes, it is right on the cross of where my rings meet my lines. So right where there's that little plus. The mirror I'm using is 3 inches. Also, I haven't mentioned this in a while. One of the reasons, I'm just popping bubbles. One of the reasons I really like using YouTube as an option for my workshops is that you can change the speed. So if I'm working faster than you, you can go to the little gear in the corner and you can slow it down. And if I'm working too slow, you can use that gear and you can speed me up. So that is always an option. And you can also pause at any point as well and then resume. So don't be afraid to do that. All right, so we've got 16 dots on the lines with white peach. Then I'm going to use the same tool, 6mm, and I'm going to use my Laguna. And we're going to do 16 dots in the spaces. So it's going to end up alternating. It is storming here tonight, and I don't know if you can hear, but I've got one of my doggies in my room. We just adopted a rescue who was neglected and starved and mistreated, and he is afraid of thunderstorms. So he's in here with me, pacing and nervous and scared. So he might make a little noise tonight. Also, sometimes my colors look a little off on camera. It really just depends on the lighting in my room and all of that good stuff. But the colors should all be the same as you're using. And it's okay. I like to say it's okay, you know, to use similar colors too, or even to go totally random with your colors. You don't have to use the same colors as me at all. But even if you get somewhat close, it'll look pretty much the same. All right, so I've got an alternating circle around here. There's 36 dots, 16 white peach, 16 Laguna, all 6 millimeters. And then I'm going to go up in size to my 8 millimeter tool. We are going to use the Melon. And then I'm going to place 16 dots on the line. So these are just going right next to that white peach. So wherever there's a white peach dot, you're going to place a melon dot. Eight millimeters. Make sure you dip and dot each time. That ensures that you've got enough paint for the dot every single time, that they're all the same size. And just a reminder, as you're making your dots, you just want to lightly kiss your canvas or kiss your surface. You don't want to stamp it and smush it. That'll help keep the sizes consistent as well. Then we're going to use our 6 millimeter tool again and Fuchsia Pop. We're going to continue working on the lines, and my next dot is 6 millimeters and Fuchsia Pop. So we're working on that same ray. So right next to the melon. And this brings me to my next ring there. Got a little hair on my canvas. Okay. All right, next, I'm gonna get my 1.5 millimeter stylus, and we're gonna use Laguna, and I'm gonna make 2 dots, and these dots are gonna go in between this white peach and the melon. So I'm gonna dip and dot, dip and dot. And I'm going to do this all the way around between each of those white peach and melon. There we go, all the way around. Then what we're going to do, we're going to use the same tool, 1.5 millimeters, and I'm going to create swipes on each side of this melon. So I'm going to dip and swipe on one side, and then dip and swipe on the other. So we're kind of just surrounding that melon with a hug. If you want those to be a little bit longer, you can double swipe. So we're going to add those all the way around. This looks so bright on camera. We've got tonight is such a, I don't know, it's like bright, not bright blue, but like it's really blue outside, which is really changing the way things are looking in here tonight. All right, next 2.5 millimeters. We are going to walk the dots around these fuchsia, starting in here in the middle, and we're going to walk outwards on each side. With Laguna, so I'm using 2.5 millimeters, I'm going to dip and dot, 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 and then dip, dot, 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 dot. Sammy says dot, 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 dot. Shoot. My Laguna's a little chunky. I put that out before I started. So it's drying up a little bit. All right, so repeat that all the way around. Right, I am going to use my 3 millimeter tool, and we are going to walk the dots in a line out from this Laguna. If you need a line to help you, you can always just pull a line, sketch a line, because this is in our spaces, okay? You don't have to sketch a line, but if you want to with your pencil, your marking pencil, you can, just to help you visualize. All right, so 3 millimeters in Laguna. I am going to dip, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I kind of want to end in the same place. One did not seem to work as well. All right. Moving along here. I am really loving how this one is turning out. Out of all three options this month, this one is my favorite. All right, next, grab your 4mm. We're going to continue with Laguna. Right next to this petal, I guess it's a petal, we're going to do a Laguna dot. 4mm on the lines next to the fuchsia petal. All right, then I'm going to get my 1.5mm stylus, and next to that Laguna dot, we are going to create a little swipe. So I'm going to dip and swipe. This is 1.5mm. We end up with 16 of those. Next, we're going to get our 10mm tool. I'm going to use the white peach, and we're going to create 16 dots in the spaces. So I want it to be in line with, or in the ring with these swipes. So I'm going to kind of center it. For me, it's right on a line where I want that. Okay, so I want it to be right next to, not right next to, but in the same line as these swipes that we just did. So 10 millimeters white peach. I really dislike how, as the tools get larger, sometimes they have little bubbles that hide underneath them. So I need to fix my shape a little bit. So we're going to go all the way around. We're going to end up with 16 of these. All right, next we're going to walk the dots around this circle, and I'm going to use my 1.5 millimeter tool. First, I'm going to add my center dot. We're using Melon. I really like doing all my center dots first. Just helps me keep things on track. It's easier for my eyeball to understand where we're going when I have that starting point. All right, 1.5 millimeters in the center. And then I'm going to dip and dot. I'm going to thin this out just a smidge because my paint is getting dried out. There we go. All right, so 1.5 millimeters. And then I'm just walking the dots on each side. And now my center dot is a different size because my paint is thinner. Dot problems, right? I'm walking 7 on each side. Because my center dot is the same as the dot on either side of it, it looks more like a ring around there instead of like usually we have kind of that pointed when you walk the dots. And so that's kind of what I was going for with this one. When we add the next layer, it will have a point to it. Next, I'm going to get my 2.5mm tool. I'm going to use the Fuchsia, and we're going to make a crown. So it's 3 dots right at the top, 2.5mm. I call these my triple dot crowns. We are going to walk the dots on each side of these. once you have the crowns on each of those, we're going to walk the dots on each side, starting with 2.5 millimeters. I can fit 7 on each side. After you walk the dots all the way around, we're going to go back to our 6 millimeter tool and Laguna. And right next to this Laguna swipe, I'm going to create a 6 millimeter Laguna dot. And this is going to line up. So I right now am right up against this row. As you can see, I want this dot to end or be right about where the tips of that triple dot crown are. So I kind of want to work in that same ring there. So I'm going to add one of these on every line all the way around. There ends up being 16. for the next step, I am going to use my chalk pencil again, and I am just going to sketch some lines. So I want to create a V shape that's coming down from this Laguna dot that we just made to the center of this space here. You don't necessarily have to do this, but it just helps me visualize where we're going. All right, so it's just a V shape, and it's coming down from each Laguna to the center underneath this petal, okay? And again, that's just to help us visualize where we're going. I'm going to use my 3mm tool, and we are going to create long swipes that go down from the Laguna in towards the center here. So when I do long swipes, I dip and I go about halfway, I re-dip, and then I pull all the way down. And we're going to do both directions. Three millimeters and Laguna. if you're following along with the step-by-step guide, I am going to put in kind of another step. I'm going to switch things around a little bit. So I'm going to get my 6mm tool and Laguna. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm not going to break the rules. I'm going to go in order. Okay. All right. Where were we? Okay. We just did our long swipes with Laguna. I'm going to get my 4mm tool. And so we've got this V down here at the bottom. On each side of this V, I'm going to use my white peach. And I'm going to put a dot on each side. I'm going to do this all the way around. So there ends up being 32 dots. 4mm white peach. Yuck. Why did I do that? All right, once you go all the way around and you have your 32 dots, we're going to continue using white peach. I'm going to get my 3mm stylus and we are going to swipe upward for each dot that we just created. And I'm just going right next to those Laguna swipes. Once you have all those swipes, we're going to continue using our 3mm tool. We're going to create some swipes with the Melon. I need to get some more paint. Come on. All right, 3mm tool, Melon. What we're going to do is I'm going to find my petal right here, and we're going to work inside this triangle. So go to the top of your petal where your fuchsia triple crown is, and we're going to pull a swipe downward. So we're working inside this triangle. Once you have all of those Melon swipes on the inside, we're going to use the fuchsia pop, and we're going to add a swipe on each side of that. So 3mm tool, one on the right and one on the left. And I went a little fast, so that one didn't go all the way down. I'm just going to help it a little bit. Don't work on canvas too often. I feel like sometimes when you're doing swipes or small details, it just isn't consistent because of the texture. But every once in a while, I like to use canvas. I prefer wood, but sometimes canvas is okay. Gotta shake it up. Can't be doing the same thing all the time. So I've gone all the way around with those, filling in those V shapes. Then I'm going to go back to my Laguna, 6 millimeters, and at the bottom of this V shape, I'm going to add a Laguna dot right over. Now this dot should go pretty much on the edge. I'm right up to the edge of my surface. So it goes right in between those two white peach dots there. And once you finish that, you are done with the base of your design. Now I'm going to show you what I did for top dots. So I'm going to mute myself for just a moment, and I'm going to flash dry this so I can show you how I did my top dots. You can always pause this and come back when yours is dry. All right, mine is dry enough that I can show you what's up. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get some white paint. So I'm going to use white on top of my white peach, just as is. I'm going to add white to my Laguna. I'm going to add white to my Melon, and I'm going to add white to my Fuchsia. And I'm really going to lighten up those colors. You can lighten your white peach, but I feel like that color is already pretty light, that you might just want to go with the white. I think the white looks better. That's what I did on my sample. Wherever I have that white peach, it's just white on top. And you'll notice some of your colors take a little more white to get them where you want to be. You really want to notice a difference. I don't just want like a half a shade lighter. I want to make sure that it's noticeably different, because otherwise it won't look like a top dot. And so basically, kind of my formula here for top dots is just wherever you have a dot, you can add the lighter color right on top. So around this circle in the center, I'm going to use my 3mm tool. Wherever I have my white peach, I'm going to add white right on top of that. On top of the Laguna, I add the lighter Laguna right on top. Still using the 3mm. I'm going to use, could use a 4 or a 5mm on top of the melon with the lighter melon. I'm sure by now you're realizing exactly what the pattern is. You just go right over the top with the lighter color. And it's subtle. It's a little harder to see on camera than it is here with the eye. I'm going to use my 4mm. Next we've got fuchsia, so I'm just going to use the lighter fuchsia. Next we've got Laguna again. I'm using 1.5mm. Now these large white peach dots were 10mm, so you want to use a fairly, you can use like maybe a 6mm in the center of those. I'm going to use white. I think adding white to this pattern really makes it pop. I did not add white to the Beginner's Bliss and the Creative Challenge. And I really like it with the white. I think it just sets it off. Next we've got Laguna again. The Laguna's getting kind of, it's hard to see. Probably should have just gone white there. That's okay. All right, 4 millimeters on these Lagunas. Now these at the edge are the same size, so I'm just going to continue this all the way around again, 4 millimeters. And then the last thing I'm going to do is 1.5 millimeters with white on these dots on the edge. And there you have it. You're going to want to let this dry completely, and then you can wipe off your marking lines with a wet paper towel or a baby wipe. And then what I will do is use some glue. You can use super glue, would work fine, or I really like this clear Gorilla Glue. It holds the mirrors on really well. It's a little hard to work with. It's super thick. But whatever glue you want to use to glue on your mirror, after you erase your lines, you can go ahead and glue on your mirror. If you're going to varnish your piece, I do not recommend varnishing over the mirror. Make sure you varnish either around it or you varnish first and then put your mirror on. And there you have it. And while I've got you here, if you made it to the end, I would love it if you find value in the Kaleidoscope Club. If you would tell a friend what we're doing here, I would love to welcome some new members. Also, go ahead and follow, while you're on my YouTube, go ahead and follow my page, my YouTube page, and you'll get access to all of my free stuff when I go live here as well. So there's lots of stuff to create. Go ahead and check out some of my other videos. I am really, really, really excited for next month's color palette. I'm calling it Fairy Breath. It's one of my favorites. I've got one of my samples here. So if you want a little sneak peek of what we're doing next month, this is the palette that I'm using. I will get that up in the club soon. And thank you so much for joining me, everyone. And I will see you next month.